Hey Pennsylvania, it's Wine O'Clock on Wine Time PA. Join Rob, Holly, and Steve as they explore their home state of Pennsylvania and all the wonderful wineries it has to offer. Each month, they take a journey tasting the wines of PA. If you're able, pour a glass of your favorite wine and join us now for Wine Time.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Wine Time PA. I'm one of your hosts, Steve, and I'm here with my lovely wife, Holly.
Hi, everybody.
And our friend, Rob.
Hello.
So, we are a podcast about visiting wineries across the state of Pennsylvania. We love the wineries in Pennsylvania, and we think you should too. So, our journey to visit all of them is going to be documented through this podcast. Today, we're excited to be featuring Waltz Vineyards Estate Winery, located in Manheim, which is in the Lancaster area. They do have two other locations to sample their wines, one of which being the wine shop at Kitchen Kettle Village in the town of Intercourse, and the wine bar at Lampeter. This winery has actually been on my personal list to visit for a while, based mostly on the very stellar Google reviews. So I and the group, we were very kind of excited when Zach reached out to us about visiting, and spoiler, the good reviews are well deserved. It was actually the first time Holly and myself had been there, but I do believe Rob mentioned he went there once years ago.
Yeah, my early days of experimenting and trying drinking wines, I came across Waltz, I think a trip with my sister out through the Amish country, and we stopped in, had a great time there. Don't remember too much about the visit, but there'll be a few sprinkling notes that pop up here and there during this episode.
So if you are planning to visit their estate winery, which is what we did, they recommend reservations, and we pretty much agree. The tasting room is beautifully done in European, old meets new kind of style, but the space is a little bit limited, so plan ahead. We also visited towards the end of March, so the outdoor seating was not really an option at that time of the year, but they do have a really spacious lawn area, and you don't need reservations to utilize that. When we visited, Zach was kind enough to give us a little tour and share some of the history and the winemaking process, which I'm going to turn over to Rob and Holly to share more on that.
All right, well, we kept mentioning the name Zach, so let me introduce you to Zach Waltz, who hosted us that day, and a big thank you to him for being such an awesome host.
Yes, thank you, Zach.
Zach is a sixth-generation farmer in the Waltz family, and they've owned that farmland since the 1700s.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Back then, the family were just farmers and did a lot of the traditional things, such as corn, wheat, soy, and fruit, some of which they still do to this day. However, they did mainly tobacco for a long time, and when the demand for that crop started to dry up, they wanted to explore other options. Now, it's also worth noting that for many years, the farm was not big enough to sustain themselves or the family, so they all had second jobs, which makes the rest of the Waltz story even more impressive when you think about how they managed this property and they all had other jobs.
Yeah.
Can't fathom that.
Yeah, I don't know how they did it.
So Zach's father, Jan, was on a trip with his wife to California wine country. As a farmer, he happened to notice the soil and saw very similar properties to the soil back home in Pennsylvania, and he thought, why can't we do that? Quick note on the soil, the Bennington silt soil, which has the access to drain away excess rainfall and is the key to their success. Anyways, at the time, there was not a lot of wine growing in this area. Jan ended up purchasing a property nearby to farm in 1995 and planted the first grapes in 1997. They first planted Merlot and Cabernet and would sell that to others. Then they started noticing others were winning awards with those grapes that they were selling and wanted to start producing their own wine. Jan was actually taught to make wine by Gino, the owner and founder of another Pennsylvania winery that we've had an episode about, Penn's Wood. So if you're new to this podcast, go back and listen to the Penn's Wood episode. Today, they've expanded their grapes and grow others to include things such as Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon, and more. All of their wines are 100% estate grown and produced with one exception, and that is the Moscato. He said they just don't grow enough of the Muscat for what they need, so he does get some from others. But he does make sure that all the grapes come from Pennsylvania. They are proud to be 100% Pennsylvania-produced wines, which the three of us absolutely love.
Yes, and that's something we sort of want to touch on before I talk a little bit more about their process. On this podcast, we enjoy wine. We say we aren't experts, we just know what we like, and we can appreciate everything that goes into it. When we visit wineries for the show, we are appreciating what they produce. We recognize that not all the wineries we visit are not using 100% Pennsylvania grown and produced products. There is no shame, and we're not throwing shade at those wineries. Some just like to make wine and don't want to get involved in the growing, or they want to make something using a grape they just can't get in state. That's fine. You do you. We do, however, want to emphasize these wineries that are really doing it all and representing what Pennsylvania can do when it comes to wine. Pennsylvania still tends to get looked down a lot in the wine world, and we want to help change that perception on this podcast. And I think the key to changing that is by highlighting estate wineries like Waltz, who are really showcasing what can be done in the state. These are all exceptional quality wines that I think can easily compete with top quality wines out of places like Europe and California. Also, I love that Waltz works with and is good friends with other winemakers in the state who are also working hard to showcase Pennsylvania wines. Some that he mentioned to us that we've done episodes on are Penns Woods, as Rob mentioned, Stony Run, and Armstrong Valley. So if you're looking for a place to start your PA wine journey and want to see what can be done in this state 100%, from start to finish, I would recommend Waltz or one of these other three. I think all of them are excellent wineries to start that journey.
Yeah, and I think they're all good examples of what can be done in Pennsylvania, because those three wineries in particular have a pretty decent selection, wide-ranging selection of varieties of grapes and wines to choose from.
Yeah. And a few other fun things to note about the history and the tour that we got with Zach that day. You'll see the family house right next to the winery. It was built there so Jan and his wife Kim could raise their 4 kids, including Zach, and make wine at the same time. That double jobs at the same time. They make about 20,000 gallons of wine on site each year. But you can tell from the size of the site, they can't do it all at once. So they do have to rotate it throughout the year to get it all done. Sanitation is very important to them. No exposed wood, all stainless steel equipment. And I can say they do keep things impeccably clean in that room. I personally like seeing their custom bottling line they got from Italy. It's all cork bottles, and they said they can do over 2,000 bottles in 1 hour. I'd love to see that thing in motion because it looks so cool.
Oh, yeah, that'd be amazing.
It looks so cool. And finally, the barrel room, which we did our tasting in, was beautiful. All of their stuff is barreled in French oak, which is more delicate than American oak.
Yeah, I've made no secret that I'm not a huge fan of American oak. I don't mind it when it's more subtle, but I definitely prefer French oak. Zach was also telling us about the trees that they grow to make the French oak barrels for wine. There's just tons of rules around it, and that includes how the trees are maintained, and I'm sure there's sustainability in mind there. It's pretty wild and worth a deep dive in some future episode. But in terms of the tasting, you can do a custom flight of 5 wines, and when we visited, they had 16 wines available. 2 sparkling, 7 white, 4 red, 1 semi-sweet red, and 2 sweet wines, 1 a white and 1 a blush.
Now, one of the things I remember from my earlier visit to Waltz Estate was that it's pretty unique how they give you those flights. They actually come out in these like chemistry, like test tube glasses instead of your more traditional glasses. And I did remember that from my first visit. And as we were walking through the tasting room, I happened to see, I think there was a couple sitting there doing some tasting, like, oh yeah, I remember those little beakers or those little test tubes that they had for their samples, which is a unique touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. You always got to appreciate when somebody does something that's very unique to them and still works. We also, again, want to thank Zach. He was doing a library testing that evening, and since we were visiting and he was opening those bottles, he let us sample a couple of those. And let's just say, if you buy a bottle of one of their dry reds and let it sit for a couple of years, you might be in for a treat. So prices for a bottle of wine start at $20 and go up to $45 for some of the higher end dry reds.
In terms of other things, we did get some bottles of water that day, but the focus on this place is the wine, and honestly, it really should be. They do offer some small cheese plates and charcuterie for purchase, and even giving pairing suggestions on the tasting sheet. We had the Gouda that day, and boy, it was Gouda. I mean, wonderful.
But
yeah, it was good.
It came with some pretzels and these dark chocolate bites as well that were just really blended well with some of the wines. Also to note on the tasting sheet, also gives you some food pairing recommendations for with the wines, and we thought that was a nice touch. We don't always see that across the wineries we visit. And if you're going to be sitting outside in the warmer season, you can bring picnic type items to enjoy outside, but you cannot bring outside food into the winery. And no outside alcohol is permitted either.
No, I'm not surprised. As clean as they keep that place, that they probably don't want food and stuff getting in there.
Yeah, and the no alcohol, we pretty much say that every episode. I'm pretty sure that's just a PA rule for liability.
Probably licensing and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so on to the best part where we discuss their wines. So this is the part where we pick 2 group wines first. So these are wines that we all enjoyed and think everyone should try. We then select 2 individual wines that stood out to us personally based on our own palates. As always, these recommendations are based just on our personal taste. We are not receiving any sort of compensation for our choices. And we also believe that when it comes to wine, don't worry about what others think, just drink what you love. Before we start, though, we do want to say that we never expect anything when we visit a winery, and we have no problem paying for our tastings, but they did not charge us for our tastings that day, and we just want to be very transparent about them, and another big thanks. However, we did purchase a few bottles to take home, so
Just a few.
Yeah.
So, Holly, why don't you kick us off with the first group pick?
Okay, so our first group pick is their Sauvignon Blanc. Now, this is a very typical Holly loves wine, but this was the first wine we tried that day, and boy, was it a wonderful start to our tasting that day. It's very light and delicate in color, with aromas of grapefruit and citrus. When you drink it, the fruit notes are more subtle, but they are there. You also get the grapefruit and lime, but with notes of green apple. I also think I got some stone notes in the finish also. It had layers of fruit delicately played on top of each other, and it was wonderful. And I think that's a lot of their wines are just delicately done. Zach said they had a hard time keeping it on the shelf, and I can see why. I think you should all run to get a bottle of this.
This tied for my top rating of the wines that day. This was by far one of the best American style Sauv Blancs I've had, and I definitely bought a bottle and brought that home. So just a wonderful Sauv Blanc, and just go try it.
Yeah, this was basically perfect. I immediately knew I loved it from that first sip. The perfect amount of acidity. It was smooth, just the right amount of lemon and grapefruit. It had this nice drier finish with just a little bit more citrus there at the end. It kind of reminded me of a New Zealand style, but just the grapefruit was much more subtle, and I really think that helped it stand out.
Yeah, and I just want to say, that was a high bar for the first one that he gave us.
Yeah.
But I don't think he disappointed with the rest, but that was a high bar for the first
all
one we
three of our
got.
eyes just popped when we started drinking this one.
Yeah, it was
a
so-
no-brainer group pick. One of the first, I think, no-brainers we've had in a.
Yeah, we all immediately knew. I am already excited to open the bottle we bought and wish I'd have bought more.
All right. Well, for our second group pick, we're going with the wine called Crisp. Now, this is very much a Rob wine, but I'm glad that the three of us all really enjoyed it, because this was a semi-dry apple wine. Now, you don't really see semi-dry apples a lot, and there's usually a semi-sweet or even sweet wines, but this was a semi-dry. And it's produced from all PA-sourced apples in the area, which include Golden Delicious, Granny Smith, and Fuji apples, among others. And those are 3 of my favorite varieties of apples. But what made this stand out is that, as I previously mentioned, it's a semi-dry. Most of those wines come across sweeter or a semi-sweet, but this tasted like you were just biting into an apple. It was crisp in nature with some the differences between some of that sweet and tart flavors, but all the various apples were coming through in that. There was just that bit of tart or even acidic finish to this one, and just, man, this was just a great apple wine, and I'm really glad the two of you enjoyed that, because I think we all bought a bottle of this. I know I did.
I love how you work the name Crisp into your description. It's like cleverly done. It was actually really well named, but I honestly don't care about apple wines. I prefer my apple drinks, honestly, as a hard cider or just a regular apple cider. I'll drink apple wine, especially at fall events if it's served warm, but I don't go out of my way to try them or purchase apple wines. However, I bought a bottle of this. Hands down, it was the best apple wine I've ever tasted.
Yeah, I have to agree with Holly on that. I really thought it was the best apple I've ever had. It wasn't sweet, but it had all that tons of just apple flavor. It was a drier finish with a bit of acidity. I just often say in the podcast, if you listen to our older episodes, that I like it when there are these traditionally sweet wines, but they're made semi-dry and sometimes even dry. And you don't find that a lot, but this is just a perfect example of what I'm always saying I want. And it was just done impeccably well. All right, so why don't we move on to our individual picks? And I'll get us started with their cellar blush. So this is their blush sweet wine. But the interesting bit is that it's made from Merlot. And my notes even say Merlot with 2 question marks because I don't think I would have gotten that.
No.
If he had
I
told
wouldn't have
us.
gotten that.
No,
Yeah.
no, I agree.
It was sweet and it was fruity. I got some honey and some strawberry flavors, but neither is overwhelming. It was just a lovely wine overall, and it really shows the versatility of the Merlot grape. I really could drink a whole bottle of this on a nice summer day.
Yeah, this was just a great bottle of wine. I had to note that the way they made it was just they cut the fermentation short, so they ended it shorter than they normally would have. So that's why it's not the dark red, but it was more that pink coloring. But yeah, I had notes of strawberry, honey, cherry, even some raspberry in there. So definitely drank a little sweeter than what you would expect from a Merlot grape, but just this was really good.
Yeah, and that's kind of I think another reason I liked it. It
Yeah.
was just it was
As a sweeter of a drink.
yeah, it was against the expectations you
Right.
have.
Yeah, it was an interesting. I noted in my note a lot of the same things you did, but I also put that I loved the color because it
Yeah.
was somewhere between a pink and a red was what my notes said. So, but yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. I'm surprised that it was Merlot. All right, so I'm going to move on to my first pick.
Are you excited about this pick, Holly?
I am very excited about this pick. I'm super excited. So it's a Semillon. I was super excited to see a Semillon on the menu. It's the first we have come across on this podcast, and I have only seen it at one other PA winery in our pre-podcast days. And it's a varietal I have loved every time I tried it. If you're not familiar with Semillon, it's a white grape varietal mostly seen in France and Australia, though it's starting to pop up in other regions. It originated from the Bordeaux region of France, and it usually gets used in a lot of blends, such as the white Bordeaux's that come from that area. And it's actually France's 4th most planted grape variety.
Huh, how about that?
Yeah. So it's out there a lot more, I think, than people realize.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a fuller body grape like Chardonnay, but the flavors are more like a Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Gris, which probably explains why Holly, and yes, I'm talking about myself in third person, loves it. Usually it has notes of lemon, peach, beeswax, and chamomile. Pear comes up as a flavor note sometimes, and I got pear in Waltz's version. To me, it started with those beeswax or honey notes, mixed in with some earthiness. Then I got the citrus and the pear in the finish. Like all their wines, it was delicate, complex, and lovely. It's one of those rare wines that you can actually let age some in terms of white. You don't usually let whites age too much, but you can a Semillon. And I'm actually beginning to question why I don't have the bottle I purchased opened and drinking it now as we talk about it.
Yeah, I was not at all surprised that you were excited to see this and then loved it. But this really was good overall. I got a nice, good minerality in the aroma. I got a big citrus flavor in the beginning with just the right amount of acidity. Maybe probably a little too low for you, maybe a little too high for me, but it was right in that perfect range. And then I got some lime in the finish. It was a very highly rated wine for me as well.
Yeah, I'm not shocked, Holly, that you picked this one because, like you said, you were super excited to see it on the menu. I think we were even talking about it ahead of time, and I can understand why you enjoy this one. I mean, it's a little different from your typical white wines we come across. It has some similar profiles to like the Chardonnay, some Pinot Grigio, some Sauvignon Blanc, but it's not exactly those, but little bits and pieces of that. And really, it was just an enjoyable white wine.
Yeah. Did not disappoint.
No. All right. Well, I'll pick my first pick, and that's called the Baron Red. Now, this is a dry red blend, and in this case, I believe it was 60% Merlot and 40% Cab Sauv. This great blend featured notes of dark cherry, but I even got some vanilla in there, likely the result of spending 22 months in that French oak. Now, for a red blend, I was surprised, in a good way, about the amount of fruit forwardness there was with this blend. I thought it was like a medium to full body wine, had a nice tannic finish, and just really well balanced. Just a really well balanced red wine. I think this would pair good with pasta dishes or Steve's favorite pizza.
Pizza.
And it is one of their top selling wines, and understandably so, because that's my pick, the Red Baron. Baron Red, sorry.
I put lots of cherry and oak, things I don't typically go for in wine, but it was so well done that I really enjoyed this wine. Like, it surprised me. I rated it very high that day. I actually kind of regret now that I didn't buy a bottle of this one.
We'll have to invite ourselves to Rob's house when he opens his.
Yeah, true.
No, I didn't get a bottle of that. I got a bottle of my next pick, though.
Ah, okay. Why don't you let us know what that is then?
So we need to go back, so for sure. Anyway.
So my second pick is their Cherry Tree Merlot. Well, Holly got super excited about the Semillon, and I have to say I was probably equally excited about the Cherry Tree Merlot.
Yeah, but in fairness, we see Merlots a lot.
We do, but as we were touring and as we were doing some other tastings, and it kind of took a little while until we got to this particular wine on our tasting. Zach was talking it up. I believe he mentioned it was like his favorite wine that they produced there. And so all of these wonderful wines we've been drinking, and the anticipation was just building to this. And when he finally broke out that bottle, I think I did a little happy dance in my seat. And let me just say, I was not disappointed. No offense to any of the other Merlots I've had, but this is, if I could only drink one Merlot going forward, it would be this Merlot for the rest of my life.
That's high praise from you.
Yeah, that is high praise.
It was quite the complex wine, but it still featured a lot of those usual dark cherry and plum flavors. But there was also a bit of sweetness up front, like that raspberry. I kind of mentioned that in the Baron Red as well, getting some of that sweet fruit in the forward notes there. Definitely had the hints of the French oak in there with a perfect tannic finish. I mean, halfway through this one, I just stopped and wrote "wow" on my notes. So this was a no-brainer for me. I have a bottle waiting for me at home. I think I might even let it sit for a couple of years because these wines can age a bit in their bottles, and I think I will, just to make that even better. So Cherry Tree Merlot, you will not be disappointed.
Yeah, so Merlot's always one of those ones like, don't really care. But it's changing. And it's thanks to wines like this. And I will gladly drink a glass of this Merlot any day. It had a milder aroma, but I could still tell it was a Merlot. You know what I mean? It had some bolder flavors compared to the Baron Red that we tasted, but the flavor profiles of vanilla, fruit, and oak worked really, really well together. In fact, I think Steve and I bought a bottle, and that is a rarity in our house to buy a Merlot.
And actually, what's fun about this is we bought one of the library Merlots, so it's already been pre-aged. Yeah, and so they don't make that Merlot every year either, which I thought was interesting. He said that if it's not turning out how they want it, they just won't sell it. I'm certain they'll do something else with it, but you got to appreciate that level of high standards that they have. And just with her, I really love this too. And my note in parentheses at the very end said just great Merlot, and it's probably the highest rated Merlot I've ever had. Yeah,
you guys don't really drink Merlots that often, and I think we maybe toyed with this being a group pick. It was that good of a Merlot, so I'm glad the two of you both like that as well.
Yeah, so for my number 2 pick, I'm going to go with their Fusion. This is an interesting one. It's a semi-dry white blend. It's actually a blend of the other white varieties that they have, and it kind of varies every year. Zach noted he blends the juice before fermentation, so it's going to be unique probably every time you try this. The one we tried, it was just tons of fruit flavors in the beginning. I tasted apple, a bit of orange, and some other citrus. I got a little bit of creaminess following the fruit. I just really loved how much fruit there was in this semi-dry. It was just rich and full of flavor.
Yeah, this was a great one. Yeah, I liked all those citrus flavors. I think I even noted some green apple in there, and yeah, just a wonderful, unique. It was kind of a different from what that we would normally expect from a dry white. So, but it was really good and done well.
Yeah, this was almost one of my picks. So I almost picked it, but I noted a lot of it. You could kind of pick up in certain profiles every so often some of the different varietals in there. Like, I think I got a little bit of creaminess from the Chardonnay, a little bit of the apple and the fruit from some of those other ones, a little bit of orange blossom from the Muscat, I got all of that in there. And I think it's worth noting, He said it's only 1% residual sugar in this, and it does not taste like that. It tastes a lot sweeter than what it is. He noted it would be a great summer sipper wine. Totally agree. I think this is definitely one of those ones, too, that you could give to maybe some of your sweeter fans who don't like the drier wines just to try it, because I think this would be a good dip in that toe for them because it's just so wonderfully done. Okay, so my second individual pick is the Cabernet Sauvignon. Now, I feel like I've become a little snobbish on this wine varietal. We try not to be snobs, but I think I have been a little bit. It's one I used to love, but then I sort of got over it because it's so popular in this country. I feel like the market was too saturated. I preferred it more in a blend. That by itself, a Cab Sauv was fine, but few were exceptional. This one is exceptional. Zach said it's even the wine that put them on the map, and I honestly see why. It has notes of spice, cherry, dark fruit, and violets. The tannins are just perfect. This is like everything you want in a good quality Sauvignon. And if you like Cabernet Sauvignon, don't miss this one.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. This was maybe one of the higher rated Cab Sauvs single varietals that I've ever had, so...
I will just reiterate what Steve just said, that it's one of the highest rated Cab Sauvs I had and just a really enjoyable. I'm like you, Holly. I kind of like them more in the blends than standalone, but this one can stand alone and should stand alone.
Yeah, agree.
So how about some honorable mentions? Why don't you get us started, Rob?
I'm going to shout out the Stiegel Rosé. Now, this was also a wine I remembered from my previous visit. And the only wine, sadly, that I remembered from my previous visit to this winery. But
you were different back then.
I was different. I was still just wetting my feet, into this whole world of wine. Just kind of enjoying what I was enjoying at the time. But I come back to this one, and this was still a really pleasant wine. Had nice flavors of strawberry, even some citrusy notes in there. It was kind of crisp to drink and light, like a light dry finish with a bit of tartness and acidity at the end. Just a really nice wine. And it was, again, more maybe a sentimental, but I still enjoyed it today.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I was looking at my notes here, and it just, I thought it was refreshing for 13% alcohol.
Yeah.
like that was impressive. And I noted he bleeds off the red fruit and uses direct press when he makes it, which I thought was interesting. But I just put it was bright fruit and had great acidity.
Yes.
So my honorable mention is going to be the Moscato.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I know, shocker. This one, I liked it because it was a bit unique. It had that orange blossom that I look for, but it also had some grapefruit in both the aroma and the taste. The grapefruit was more subtle, but it paired so wonderfully with those traditional, like typical Moscato flavors that I had to give it a mention. It was good.
Yeah, I got some flavors, almost maybe like a white peach in there. Those are really good Moscato.
Yeah, I bought a bottle of this too.
Yeah,
I actually noted, I enjoyed it too. I noted honeysuckle was the flavor that I got a lot of from the Moscato. So it's just interesting what everybody's tongues pick up. But as far as my honorable mention, I guess I should just say anything not picked yet, because I don't think we tried a single bad wine that day. They were all amazing. But I will shout out the Old Line Chardonnay. This one, he said, is done in 50% stainless steel and 50% oak, which I thought was interesting. You get some of those classic vanilla Chardonnay flavors, but you also get some great fruit notes, such as citrus and apple, and it just had a wonderful finish. It was just a really great Chardonnay, I thought.
Yeah, I really love the uniqueness that this was 50% stainless and 50% oak, and it was French oak, so it was nice. There wasn't so overwhelming oak flavor, just nice. It was interesting.
Yeah, you kind of get the best of both worlds of if you like steeled Chardonnay, or if you like oak Chardonnay, you kind of get a little bit of both in there. So
yeah, and I'm trying to remember if we come across people that have used both methods together.
It's usually one or the other.
Yeah, usually
a Chardonnay or an oak Chardonnay.
I'm certain other people have, and maybe we just haven't noticed, or
haven't asked the right questions.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, it's a learning process for us as well.
Well, in terms of their awards, their wines have won numerous throughout the years, and obviously well earned. They have a page on their website. You can learn more about it, but to note a few things. Several of their wines have gotten a James Suckling rating in the 90s, and some of the recent winners are at the 2025 Finger Lakes competition include a double gold medal for the Sauvignon Blanc.
Ooh, not surprised.
Yep, we all do agree. They also got a gold for their Cabernet Franc, a silver for their Baron Red, and a bronze for the Cherry Tree Merlot, which we'd all mentioned. And I just want to mention some of the top sellers. I think Rob had mentioned the Baron Red is one of their top sellers. Zach also told us their Sauvignon Blanc is a top seller, which he said they have a hard time keeping it. And then finally, the Moscato is a top seller. Nice. So, yeah.
I agree. Like that Moscato.
Yeah, it's just to note that While a lot of their wines tended to be on the drier side, they still drink fruity. So that was just kind of a unique thing, I thought, worth mentioning.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a winery that, sweeter wine drinkers could be a little deterred at first just by looking at the menu, but they do have a couple sweeter ones, and those ones that are in that middle are just so fabulously done that I think that people would appreciate them.
Well, I guess that wraps up. So one final thanks to Zach and the entire staff at Waltz for an incredible visit. They are long-standing generational farmers who love their heritage and love their family. They respect and tend to the land that they own meticulously well. They care about their product and that they put their name on. And they care about the people that come through their doors just as much. So all that attention and care just results in a top-notch 100% Pennsylvania-made wine. And this is a winery that everyone should visit at least once. And please tell them that you heard about them from us if you do visit. For more information, visit their website at waltzvineyards.com and be sure to follow them on social media. And while you're out there, please follow us on Facebook, Instagram under Winetime PA. Please also like and follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. Tune in to the first Wine Wednesday of next month as we feature another Pennsylvania winery. Also note, on May 20th of this month is a special bonus episode we are doing in honor of National Wine Day. It's not a winery, it's sort of a blind tasting episode that we think you're going to have fun and enjoy. Until next time, cheers.
Thanks for listening to Winetime PA with your host Rob, Holly, and Steve. We hope you enjoyed our take on Pennsylvania wineries and all that they have to offer. Please be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast. Also, be sure to follow them on social media for updates and news. Remember, when it comes to wine, drink what you love.